Welcome to Distress to Joyful, Bailey's Way. I'm your host, Bailey Reber, here to enlighten you and the rest of the world about one of the most misunderstood mental health disorders out there, bipolar disorder. In each episode, we'll learn more about my personal journey with bipolar II disorder, how I've struggled with it, and how I've learned to overcome those struggles. Together, we'll laugh, we'll cry, and most importantly, we'll have fun. You'll leave each episode feeling hopeful and stocked full of useful information on how you can better yourself and the world around you. Hello, friends. So, a couple announcements. Well, one announcement I'm going to start with, and then we're going to jump right in pretty quick today because this is going to be kind of a lengthy episode. I'm going to try to not let it be so lengthy, but because of what we're talking about and how I'm also talking about my experiences, it's probably going to be a little bit longer than normal. I could be wrong, but I just want to set the scene just in case. So I'm really, really excited because I have recently started working on some affirmation coloring pages. So if you're on YouTube, you can actually see what I'm talking about. If you're not on YouTube, you can check out the images. Wow, I don't have words today. You can check out the images of these coloring pages on my Instagram at distressjoyful_Bailey's Way. You can also look in the show notes as well. They're both going to be there. So I'm really, really excited because if you guys tuned into season 4, episode 9, Anxiety, Please Leave, You're Not Welcome Here, then you already know that I've started coloring as a way to help with my anxiety and also my depression. But that I also started making some coloring pages. So the first two that I made, well, the first one that I made was actually to go alongside of That's Not Me, That's Bipolar Disorder, which is a season 2 episode. And then I made another one that was fun that just says "fuck that shit" just because that's just one of my favorite sayings. I say it all the time. But then I got an idea this past week and I was like, you know what? I need to work on my affirmations. The thing that I'm really, really terrible about is being kind and compassionate to myself. Guys, I'm so bad at that. I'm so bad at that. Like, I'm the hardest on myself. I'm my own worst enemy. And these past couple of months have been really, really hard. And while they've been hard, I've been really hard on myself too, which does not make anything easier. I've not been kind to myself. And I really, 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 really need to work on that. So I had a fun idea and I'm like, you know what? While I'm working on this coloring stuff, instead of focusing on other phrases, I think the phrases I need to focus on right now are positive affirmations. So the biggest one that I struggle with, which I don't know why, because my fiance does a great job of showing me this, but it's I am loved. So this one's partially colored. Of course, I have I am beautiful, which I already flashed across the screen. And then I also made this one, which I really, really love. I am worthy of affection. So again, all of these, I'm going to have photos in different places, but you can actually, support your girl and the podcast by purchasing one of these from my Etsy shop. It's an instant download. You can print it 1,000 times if you want. It's just $2. So I think I'm also going to do something really nice for you guys because I appreciate y'all. And one of these I'm going to give out to you all. And one of these I'm going to give out to you guys for free. Yeah. So for that, you do need to go to my show notes, and there's going to be a link in there that you can click on and you can download one of these for free. I'm not going to tell you right now which one. You can go to my show notes and find out. But I am really, really excited because this is something that I know I need to work on, and I'm doing a 2-for-1, guys. You know me, I love being productive and I love getting shit done. So the fact that I can sit here and color, which is good for my anxiety, it helps me calm down and relax, especially after a stressful work day. But besides that, I'm also reminding myself I am worthy of affection over and over and over again as I'm coloring this page. I am beautiful over and over and over. You get the point. So what I'm planning to do is after I finish a page, I'm going to hang it up somewhere in my house, in my apartment, where I can see it every single day. Because again, I need reminders, as we all do. We all need reminders that we are amazing just as we are. And I found this to be a beautiful way to do it. Again, it's a twofer. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. My experiences so far with EMDR therapy. Huh. Okay, well, let's go ahead and begin with the basics. What is EMDR therapy? So, I'm going to start by reading from an informative webpage that I found on emdr.com. And they go on to say that EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which I do want to just side note desensitization. God damn, I've been saying that wrong this whole time. I prefer just EMDR. So moving forward, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing is EMDR. I'm done with that. So, EMDR is a psychotherapy that enables people to heal from the symptoms and emotional distress that are the result of disturbing life experiences. Repeated studies show that by using EMDR therapy, people can experience the benefits of psychotherapy that once took years to make a difference. It is widely assumed that severe emotional pain requires a long time to heal. EMDR therapy shows that the mind can, in fact, heal from psychological trauma much as the body recovers from physical trauma. When you cut your hand, your body works close. Oh, when you cut your hand, when you cut your hand, your body works to close the wound. If a foreign object or repeated injury irritates the wound, it festers and causes pain. Once the block is removed, healing resumes. EMDR therapy demonstrates that a similar sequence of events occurs with mental processes. The brain's information processing system naturally moves towards mental health. If the system is blocked or imbalanced by the impact of a disturbing event, the emotional wound festers and can cause intense suffering. Once the block is removed, healing resumes using the detailed protocols and procedures learned in EMDR therapy training sessions. Clinicians can help clients activate their natural healing processes. Oh, that's a mouthful, but I got another paragraph of a mouthful, so hang tight. EMDR therapy is an 8-phase treatment. Eye movements or other bilateral stimulation are used during one part of the session. After the clinician has determined which memory to target first, he asks the clients to hold different aspects of that event or thought in mind and use his eyes to track the therapist's hand as it moves back and forth across the client's field of vision. As this happens, for reasons believed by a Harvard researcher to be connected with the biological mechanisms involved in rapid eye movement, which is REM sleep, internal associations arise and the client begins to process the memory and disturbing feelings. In successful EMDR therapy, the meaning of painful events is transformed on an emotional level. For instance, a rape victim shifts from feeling horror and self disgust to holding the firm belief that I survived it and I am strong. Unlike talk therapy, the insights clients gain in EMDR therapy result not so much from clinician interpretation, but from the client's own accelerated intellectual and emotional processes. The net effect is that clients conclude EMDR therapy feeling empowered by the very experiences that once debased them. Their wounds have not just closed, they have transformed. As a natural outcome of the EMDR therapeutic process, the client's thoughts, feelings, and behavior are all robust indicators of emotional pain and resolution, all without speaking in detail or doing homework used in other therapies. Whoa, that was a lot. And I'm sure that was a lot for all y'all to take in. So, if you'd prefer to just read this article and reread it a few times over, like I did, in order to fully grasp and understand it, you can, of course, find the link in today's show notes. Okay, so now that we've discussed the clinical definition of EMDR and how it typically works, let's take a moment to talk about why somebody would do EMDR therapy and what sorts of mental health issues this therapy is known to help. Also, if that clinical definition was a lot for you, hang tight. When I get to my experiences, it's going to make some more sense. I promise, because I'm going to spell out in detail how things go with each session, how we started it, how it goes every single time. So you're going to get a much more clear picture of what's going on. And I'll also kind of go over with you the goals that my therapist and I have. Okay. So hang tight. So I found a medically reviewed article on myclevelandclinic.org titled EMDR Therapy that states the following. The most widespread use of EMDR is for treating post traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. So mental health care providers also use it in the treatment of the following conditions: anxiety disorders such as generalized anxiety, panic disorder, phobias, and social anxiety slash phobia; depression disorders such as major depressive disorder, persistent depressive disorder, and illness related depression; dissociative disorders such as dissociative identity disorder or amnesia; and depersonalization or realization disorder, which never heard of those. We're not even going to touch that. Let's keep going. Eating disorders such as anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder; gender dysphoria, so feeling as though your gender is different from the one assigned to you at birth. Interesting. Obsessive compulsive disorders such as OCD, body dysmorphic disorder, and hoarding disorder; personality disorders such as borderline personality disorder, avoidant personality disorder, and antisocial personality disorder; and trauma disorders such as acute stress disorder, PTSD, CPTSD, and adjustment disorder. Wow, this is used for a lot. Like, y'all, way more than I realized, way more. Because you're probably wondering right now, so what the hell am I being treated for, right? Like, why am I doing this? So, if you're a longtime listener of this podcast, then you probably already know the answer. But for those of you who may be tuning in for the very first time, I am being treated for CPTSD, which the C stands for complex PTSD. So, what the hell is that? What is complex PTSD? Which, again, PTSD stands for post traumatic stress disorder. So, I found a really, really amazing informational page on cptsdfoundation.org that fully explains CPTSD in a way that makes sense. And they say that CPTSD describes the results of ongoing, inescapable relational trauma. Unlike regular PTSD, so sorry, y'all. So sorry. Unlike regular PTSD, complex PTSD typically involves being hurt by another person. These hurts are ongoing, repeated, and often involving a betrayal and loss of safety. Okay, I have CPTSD. Hi, that's me. I've got that. It sucks. And mine is specifically from family relational trauma. And I don't know if I've already said this, I might have in a previous episode, but mine is specifically from the relationship with my mom. And, I will say, like I have for a million times, and I fully, firmly believe this, especially after going through so many sessions of EMDR already, that it's not her fault. It's not her fault that the way things happened the way that they did. She was doing the best that she could with the tools that she had. Unfortunately, she didn't have the tools I needed, right? Like, I wasn't getting what I needed in order to form into a functional, healthy adult. Straight up. Straight up. That's why I struggled with alcohol and sex and all the things for so long. But what really sucks is that, you know, she gave me more tools than what she had. So she was given, an even shorter straw than what I was given. Like, let's say I was given this straw, that's like 3 inches, I guess. And she was probably given like a quarter inch. So she wasn't a bad mom. It just, things just didn't work out the way that I needed, especially with my bipolar disorder that went undiagnosed for 16 years of my life. So, yeah. But let's go ahead and talk about my experiences with EMDR therapy. And yeah, let's go with that. So, first of all, the reason we decided for this is because I've been seeing my therapist for almost 12 years now, same therapist this whole time. And I have been incredibly reluctant to talk about family trauma. Like, so reluctant. Guys, within these last couple of months of doing EMDR therapy, my therapist is shocked at the things I'm telling her because there's so much that I have held on to deep inside and never told anyone before. And when you do that, y'all, that shit festers. It festers and it comes out and makes problems in your life. If you don't heal those wounds, they fester and they keep growing, and it's like a bacteria spreading, and it's a virus, and it's not good because not only does it affect you, but it can affect the relationships that you have as well. And I have worked so, so hard, but I haven't been able to dive into those things. They're hard. This topic sucks. I hate it. It's really, really painful. Again, CPTSD being ongoing, inescapable relational trauma that clearly describes what I went through my entire childhood. That's why I fucking moved out of my parents' house when I was 18 years old. I graduated high school. 3 months later, I was out the fucking door. I mean, what else do I gotta say? Like, that explains, like, yeah. So, this shit sucks, and I hate EMDR because I hate remembering these things. I shoved them so far back. First of all, I let alcohol cloud most of them for years, but then these memories have been slowly coming up, and I've been reminded of things, and it sucks because it hurts. And the whole point of my EMDR therapy is to no longer allow these feelings to control me. These situations happened years ago, decades ago. There's nothing I can do about it now. So I need to move forward, but I can't because my brain is stuck. My brain is literally stuck. And EMDR helps my brain get unstuck. So let's talk about how it helps me get unstuck. And let's talk about the process that I personally go through with my therapist. So every situation is different. Everybody will do this differently. Even if you have the exact same therapist as me and you ask to do EMDR, I 100% guarantee you it will be somewhat different than how I go through mine. Because again, we all have different lived experiences. So I'm going to tell you how I do my EMDR therapy with my therapist. If you have also done EMDR and either found that it didn't work for you or you just didn't like it, consider the differences that I have going on here. And yeah, that's what I got for you. But always, always, always talk to your therapist about this because I'm not recommending that everyone go off and do this. I do think that certain people who've lived specific experiences should do this, which is people like me. People have gone through shit like I have. But let's stop talking about that. Let's get into the point. Sorry, I got way off topic. That's y'all know me. Distraction. So let's talk about the preparation and the tools. So before we even begin all of this, she started setting me up with tools. And these are specific things to help me stay centered, stay grounded, stay calm, especially if I'm getting triggered by something. So the first one is called Safe and Calm. And we sat down together and she had me close my eyes and find a place in my head where I just feel relaxed and where I feel calm. And for me, that is Memorial Park Running Trail here in Houston. I have always just felt a good sense of like relaxation and at peace when I'm out there running. Not right now in the 102-degree weather, but you know what I mean. So that's my safe and calm. So that is actually a tool that she has told me to use in real life, not in therapy, but mainly out in real life. That if I'm getting triggered by something, which, triggers come from past instances that something is occurring in the present that reminds you of the past and it gets you riled up and it gets you feeling anxious or frustrated or angry or scared or whatever. When those moments happen, she tells me to use the safe and calm just to imagine myself running at Memorial Park, feeling good, and just kind of ground and center myself on that. There's a couple other ones. There's like the five senses, which I don't remember, and other ones that I don't remember because I clearly don't use them in my real life. I should probably ask her and get those again. There's another technique that a technique. I guess it's a tool. I would call it a tool that she has set me up with, and this we use every single time. So it's called locking things in the box. And so in the box, being like my box, is basically I sit there, I close my eyes, and I imagine for me, it's a dumpster. For my box is a big green dumpster and it's got a lid and it's got a lock. And so what we'll do is at the end of each session, I'll sit there and she'll tell me to lock all the memories in the box. So whatever memories and thoughts came up during the session, I sit there and in my mind, I'm like, okay. So I take the memory and I chunk it in the box. Most of the time, well, depending. If it's a really, really rough memory, if it's a scary memory, if it's a horrible feeling memory, distressful memory, I will fucking slam that shit in the box because I'm like, get the fuck in there. I'm locking you away. I'm done. Other sometimes I'm gentle, like, when memories come up with, like, my nana or things like that, like, those I'm more gentle. I'm like, "Okay." Like, literally, for instance, this last EMDR session I did on Monday, I had my nana in one of them, and I told myself, I was like, Nana, like, I'm gonna put you in the box, I'll come back for you later," and, like, I was gentle with that memory. So it just depends, but I put them in there and we lock them away and we're done with them. So it's kind of like signifying that, hey, we're done with this. We're done with this session. We're done with these memories. They can't hurt me. They're stored away. The moving train is something that she tells me it's like, Harry Potter or the Polar Express when the kid's on the train and he's like seeing things flash, like memories flash before his eyes. That's another tool that she reminds me when I'm going through EMDR. She reminds me every time at the beginning to remind myself I am on a train and I'm watching these memories happen. Oh my God, this is us. If you haven't seen This Is Us, this is a total spoiler, but there's a scene towards the end where she's on a moving train and like experiencing things and whatnot. And that's reminded me of it. Wow. This Is Us is an amazing podcast, especially in terms of, you know, childhood traumas and working through them as an adult and all of that. God, it's so good. I keep telling my therapist she has to watch it. She just doesn't have Hulu, so that I think that's why she hasn't. But anyways, back to being on topic. The final thing, which is actually a big piece in this therapy, is the bilateral stimulation via tappers. So let's take a moment to talk about this because you might be a little confused or lost right now because I just kept talking about how EMDR, eye movement, uses lights in your eyes. But the way I do it with my therapist, we don't do anything with lights or anything with the eyes. We use these tappers, which, if you go to the show notes, you're going to see. I'm going to put a picture in the show notes and the link to them as well. So we use these things called TheraTappers. So I found a really good article on emdrhealing.com written by Mary Beth Zolik, who is a LMHC. And this article is titled EMDR Bilateral Stimulation Device. Here's what you need to know. And it reads that bilateral stimulation, which literally translates to stimulation of both sides, which in this case refers to the brain, that there are several options for this and the use of, bilateral stimulation plays an important role in EMDR therapy. There are several options for this. The use and the goals are essentially the same regardless of which bilateral stimulation device is used. The literal definition of bilateral stimulation is the stimulation of both sides, which I've already said, that's really redundant. So in therapy, these sides refer to the brain. Bilateral stimulation works both sides in the brain in order to use the whole brain when working on revisiting traumatic events. So that said, my therapist uses TheraTappers, like I mentioned, and their website explains this device as the following: that alternating bilateral stimulation is used in conjunctions with several different psychotherapeutic protocols, such as EMDR therapy and others. So, ABS provides stimulation to alternating sides of the body, thereby activating alternate hemispheres of the brain. So, this is believed to aid in the therapy process. So my tappers, they look like Wii remotes. That's what I've been calling them, is Wii remotes, until I did some research and figured out that they're called TheraTappers. But I put one in one hand and one in the other, and they vibrate. So this one vibrates, and then this one vibrates, and then the right vibrates, and then the left vibrates, and it just goes back and forth, back and forth. Some of you guys may have heard of bilateral stimulation music. So I actually have a couple on my YouTube playlist. I'm going to link them in this episode, in the show notes for you guys. But bilateral stimulation music, you have to listen to with headphones, because it's one side, the other. It's left and right, left and right. And it goes back and forth. And it's a similar effect. And I actually listen to my bilateral stimulation music normally while I am journaling about each of these sessions. So we'll get to that at the very end. So I have these tappers. She turns them on. And before she turns them on, actually, let's go ahead and break down how each of these sessions works for me. So we start by picking a very distressing or disturbing memory. There's 3 different ways to do this. My therapist, this is what she's told me. We either do the first, the worst, or the most recent. So the first being the very first traumatic event that I can ever remember. The worst being the one that makes me feel the most distressed. And then most recent, that's a given. So we pick one of those, and then I decide how distressing it feels using a scale. So she'll have me do a scale like of 1 to 10. How distressing does this feel? And when I first started, everything was a fucking 10. All of it was a 10. And with doing that, she'll also have me she'll have me do a body scan. She'll say, okay, well, where do you feel in your body? And 9 out of 10 times it's in my neck. It's right under my jaw. It is in my throat. Sometimes I feel the tension in my arms. Like, I feel tension, you guys. I literally feel tension in my body when I think of these things. It's horrible. It's horrible. So there's all that. And so we figure that out. We figure out where I'm feeling in my body, the scale of 1 to 10. Then we have to figure out the negative I am statement that is associated with this memory. So, for example, one that I come back to a lot is I am not loved, which that is why I try to show you guys on YouTube. That's why the I am loved coloring page is so important, because this is a tough one for me. It really is, unfortunately. So after we figure that out, then we decide, I decide, okay, so what I am statement would I prefer to believe about this specific memory? Again, we're focusing on a memory, how the memory makes me feel, the statement that I feel is true about that memory, and what I would prefer to believe. So if we're saying I'm not loved, then the one I would prefer to believe is that I am loved. Sometimes I have I am unworthy, which again, I am loved would be the opposite, like whatever. Not the opposite, but what I prefer to believe. And y'all, let me just tell you, it is really, really hard for me to come up with a positive I am statement. I can come up with that negative one in a heartbeat, but the positive one, that's rough for me. Again, I struggle with self-compassion and self-love, as you can clearly see. So then my therapist hands me the tappers and we begin. And I literally just think about the memory, and I sit there and think about it with my eyes closed. The tappers are going back and forth, left, right, left, right, left, right. And she'll stop the tappers, and she'll have me take a deep breath and ask me, what am I feeling? What am I thinking of? How does my body feel? Like these types of questions. And then we just process through. And what's wild is when I first started doing this, we focused it on car wrecks, because that I had PTSD from. And so when we started moving to family stuff, that was really hard, really hard. Lots of sobbing, you guys, sobbing from these. Like my body would like tense up. I would sob. It was horrible. It's not as bad anymore, but I still don't love it. And then what's happened through this therapy is there's been a slow shift. So instead of just focusing on what happened to me in those moments, over time, I've been able to see a broader picture of, okay, yeah, my mom behaved in this way towards me, but maybe she behaved this way towards me like this because XYZ. And when I do this, when we start taking the scope from just being me, just being this little me that's angry, and we start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I can understand a bigger picture, there's compassion not only towards me, but towards my mom. And with that, I can leave feeling not empowered. I wouldn't say empowered. I'm not there yet. We got a lot more work to do. I'm not there yet. But I'm feeling less angry at her and more sad for her, to be honest, because like I said, I didn't have a great childhood, but she had it way worse than I did. She did. And so I feel sad for her. I feel empathetic. I feel compassionate. I'm starting to feel more emotions and more healthy emotions than just anger, because anger is my go to. We've talked about this before. But that's literally the point of this, you guys, is to change it. Instead of me just being mad and upset and sad and angry and all the negative things, I can start to feel other emotions. I can start to understand that even though this happened to me, it wasn't my fault, that there was more going on than just this, and that there was more to it than just what I experienced and what I saw. That's the point of EMDR, you guys. Widen the experience or the lens, better understand what was going on, and realize that, like, okay, this sucked, but also this was going on too. And again, that's the duality, y'all, the duality of sitting in things and realizing this shitty thing happened to me, but this person was just doing the best that they could in that moment, and what happened to them was also not great, and they didn't have the tools to do better for me, and it's not their fault either. And sitting in both this sucked, but also it wasn't their fault either, that's been really hard for me, but I'm getting better. I'm getting a lot better. We are months into this therapy. We have so many more months to go. Y'all, I really think I'm going to be doing this therapy for the next like 2 years. I really do. I have some deep, deep, deep seated shit just shoved on down that I really, really need to heal from. And it sucks and it's hard. And one of the things I told my fiance the other day is I told him, I was like, you know what? This sucks. It's not my fault these things happened to me. I didn't ask for any of this. None of this is my fault. But I have to sit through and go through this horrific therapy. I have to go through hours and hours of healing so that I can have a peaceful, happy life. That sucks. That sucks. But you know what, guys? What I want you to know and to understand and to fully see is that choosing to not do this, choosing to not subject myself to this really hard, intensive therapy is way worse than subjecting myself to it. Because not doing it means I will continue to be triggered. I will continue to be angry. I will continue to not understand. I will continue to make mistakes in my relationships with other people. But doing this hard work, I am allowing myself to heal. I'm allowing myself to hold myself accountable for my own mistakes. I'm allowing myself to no longer be triggered or to be imprisoned to these emotions that are inside of me because of somebody else. I am empowering myself by doing this. I am. And again, it's not fun, but it is 1,000% worth it. And I will bitch and whine and moan and complain about doing it, but I'm still going to keep doing it. It's like a workout. You go to a workout and you groan your way through it and you're like, ugh, this sucks. I hate it. You cuss and you're sweating, blood, sweat, and tears, all of it. But you never regret it afterwards. And that is how I feel about EMDR therapy, guys. I will cuss. I was almost yelling at my not at my therapist, but I was talking, during the session, and I was getting angry, and when I get angry, I get aggressive in my tone and I get louder and I cuss more, and that was happening, and my therapist was just sitting there. She was holding the space for me, and it was really, really beautiful, and I will do that, but then I will be done with it, and I never regret a session. I never regret one, because then what I do is I come to my handy dandy journal that I have right there. This one that says choose your path, which I purposely chose. Choose your path. Because with this therapy, I am choosing a new path for myself. I am choosing to have a better future. I am choosing healing and peace and self love. And while I'm not there yet, and while it might take years to fully get to where I want to be, I'm going down that path and I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep going no matter how hard it sucks. It's like running a marathon, you guys. It sucks. You hate it. You're sweating. Some of you guys are like, I would never fucking do that. Why are you using this analogy? But that's the idea here. And I can tell you right now that this has been worth it. This has been worth it because I'm already starting to feel better and be in a place where things are making more sense and there's more understanding and there's more love. There's more love. The more I do this, guys, the more I open myself up to more love. So, all of that said, this is my experience, and I hope that this has helped to open your eyes to a new sort of therapy that may be useful to you. Again, talk this over with your therapist. I wanted to give you guys my perspective because this is something I've been doing. This has been affecting me mentally up until recently. I've finally gotten to a point where things are smoothing out, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. It's worth it for me. It might be worth it for you too. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and move in to win of the week because my God, this was a hard episode today. So, this segment was created for you guys as a way to spread positivity, especially after a hard episode like today. But I'm going to go ahead and share my win of the week. And that is that I went to a pole dance class this week for the first time in years. Oh my God, years. So pole dancing it's fun. It is something that I definitely got out of my comfort zone to get back into it again. That's for sure. But there's just an elegance and a strength that really feels empowering to me. And I loved it back in 2018 when I did it. I had my friend Becca, who was my instructor most of the time. I had a blast. It was so fun. And I hopped back on the pole again this week, and it was uncomfortable for me. I've gained some weight over the last few months, and I was in a room of people I didn't know doing something again that I hadn't done in years, like riding a bike. So, yeah, it was fun, and I'm proud of myself for getting out of my comfort zone and doing that. So, that is my win. But if you have a recent win that you want to share, and if you want to shout out on the show, you can head on over to whatisheybellsdoing.com/win of the week, and you can submit an anonymous submission that way. You can also just send me a DM on Instagram at at distress_the_joyful Bailey's way. Oopsies. Wow. Or you can send me an email at whatisheybellsdoing@gmail.com. So if you want to be anonymous, feel free. If you want me to give you a shout out with your name, I would love to. I would love to, y'all. So thank you for tuning into the show. Be sure to tune into the next episode. I forgot to write down which one that is. So surprise, you'll find out next time. Or catch the travel tales in between the episodes each week. I hope you guys are enjoying those. But if you enjoy this podcast, help spread the word by leaving a rating or writing a review, especially on Apple Podcasts, because I want to hear from you guys, and that's the easiest place to write a review that I know of. Also, be sure to check out the show notes for today's episode, where you can find all of the articles and links mentioned, as well as the coloring pages like I talked about. Lastly, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all of the new episode releases. But until next time, Take it easy, stay grateful, and be joyful. Bye.